I offered to have that Pierre guy come on the podcast.
Really?
He didn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Thought it was too problematic. Or whatever. Jordan told me, I forget what he said, but they were telling him not to do it. Like his advisors were telling him not to do it. I don't know anything about Canada's politics.
Did Pierre's lack of going on American podcasts influence the outcome of the election? Well,
News broke recently that Joe Rogan reached out to Pierre Poilievre's team during the election campaign and asked him to come on his podcast, to which Pierre's team declined. Many of you have been asking for our take on this and whether it would have influenced the outcome of the election. Well, here it is.
let's take a look.
That kind of reminds me of what happened in Canada with the truckers.
Yes.
I mean, they froze
exactly.
their bank accounts.
Yeah,
Or people who donated to them.
Yeah. People who donated to them got their bank accounts frozen.
How insane.
Insane. And then that same party just won again. Good job, Canada.
Oh my God. If they didn't have good bear hunting, I would never go there.
I do have to say, I offered to have that Pierre guy come on the podcast.
Really?
He didn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Thought it was too problematic. Or whatever. Jordan told me, I forget what he said, but they were telling him not to do it. Like his advisors were telling him not to do it. Hey, dumbass.
If they can't talk to you and have a conversation hold up, you're not grilling people. You're not attacking people.
Of course not.
This is like a safe, the friend zone type thing. It's like, no.
As I've gotten older and wiser in life, I want less conflict. I mean, sometimes you have to be able to disagree in a way that's forceful. But I'm never insulting or attack people.
Right.
And especially this Pierre Poilievre guy, because I don't know how to say his name. How do you say it? No idea. It's a weird way of saying it. Poilievre. I would just ask him questions like, what's wrong? What's wrong with Canada? Like, how did this happen? Why did it go this way? What can be done to reverse some of these things that have been put into place? Like, how did you feel about this? What would you have done differently?
Yeah.
Real simple stuff.
Yeah.
Real simple. I don't know anything about Canada's politics.
And this is the problem, Joe. This is the problem. Now, for the record, we think Pierre's having a conversation with Joe Rogan would be phenomenal to watch.
Yeah. Again, I don't get to watch as many podcasts as I want to, but I think Joe Rogan is fairly measured. I mean, he's not usually out to attack people. I know I've seen a few episodes where he gets a little worked up, but usually that's because the guest is working him up.
Well, and he's calling BS on the guest usually.
Right. So I think honestly, in terms of for any politician, not just Pierre, I think Joe Rogan's podcast would be a safe one to go on, in the sense that Joe's not out to attack people. He seems like he is there to get to the bottom of things and just ask questions and learn, which is kind of the podcast that we like, right? But there's some nuance here. I think that it is risky, or it would have been risky for Pierre, especially during the election period, not because of the questions that Joe would have asked or how Pierre would have been treated on the show. That would have been perfectly fine.
They could have been talking about puppies the whole time.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered.
It would be the left coming after Pierre. Look at this guy going on an American far-right podcast, because that's what they call Joe Rogan's podcast.
Which is funny, because if you actually watch Joe Rogan, as many of you do, if you watch Joe Rogan, he's pretty centered. He leans to the left on some things, like he's for marijuana and things like that, and some left policies, but he's also for some of the right policies as well. Like he doesn't align himself to Republican or Democrat. He is what it is.
And he's not combative. Like, he's not out to get you. He's really there to ask questions. So again, I think it would be a safe podcast to go on in that regard. However, the real problem here is the Canadian left, and they would have demonized Pierre Poilievre and unfortunately Joe Rogan in the process.
Right. Never mind the fact that that Mark Carney essentially announced his leadership run and therefore his election run on an American TV show. Never mind that fact. And never mind the fact that if Mark Carney went on Joe Rogan, the conservative side would have said nothing about it.
Well, that's because the conservative side doesn't care. We understand that there's Canadians that watch American media as well, that it's not you know, it's not like it was 50 years ago where your TV station was local, and unless you lived in that city or town or greater metropolitan area, you were not getting that TV station. Now things are international. They're worldwide. You can hop on YouTube anywhere and watch podcasts like Joe Rogan or Northern Perspective.
Now, here's the question. Did Pierre's lack of going on American podcasts influence the outcome of the election? Well, we will never know that. But the vast majority of the views that Joe Rogan gets are outside of Canada. And the majority of the views that he probably does get are going to be from people that are probably going to be voting conservative. Now, will some people watch Joe Rogan's podcast that don't necessarily vote conservative? Maybe. But here's the calculation, the political calculation that Pierre's team had to make. Okay, so of the people that may watch Joe Rogan's podcast that may be swing voters, what percentage of them would we be able to count on that interview flipping to our side? So that's the first question that they would have to ask, and they would have to estimate what that percentage is. I have no idea what it is. Now, the second question is, all right, so now that we have that, what would be the percentage number of voters we would then lose as a result of all of the demonization that the mainstream media that would come after Pierre at no direction of the Liberals, never mind all of the attack ads that would come out from the Liberals itself, how many voters would Pierre lose? So obviously his team looked at that and said, you know what? We would probably lose more through fear and misinformation than we would gain from actually going on Joe Rogan's podcast. So that's why. And that actually allowed Pierre to say, you know what? I'm spending this election in Canada talking to Canadians because those are the issues that I am most concerned about. And I think it was the best decision he could have made at the time. This isn't to say that when Pierre becomes Prime Minister, he's not going to go on Joe Rogan. I think he absolutely will go on Joe Rogan once he's Prime Minister.
I was going to say, I really hope that they were able to leave that door open and say, okay, if you can't do it now, perhaps you'd like to come on again, like, or sometime in the future. And that's what I was saying when everybody a few weeks ago was very upset that Pierre wasn't going on podcasts. I said, just keep that door open. So I'm really hoping that's the case here. Maybe we'll see him on Rogan's podcast in the future.
And maybe we'll see him again on Northern Perspective. One can only hope.
Meet Vincent, a little boy with big questions. Join him and his two playful pups as they explore Parliament Hill, meet Canada's leaders, and discover how the laws that shape our country are made. Proudly written, illustrated, and published by Canadians for Canadians, Vincent Visits Parliament is the perfect book to inspire the next generation of Canadian leaders. Order your copy today.